Good morning, Kathy.
Hey, how are you?
Well, I'm being blinded by the sun, but I'm not going to complain about that.
Don't complain about that. Don't complain. I know I hear
Oh.
people saying it's too hot, and I'm like, shush, shush.
Right after a good wet summer, which we're all grateful for,
Yeah,
it's nice to have a little bit of dry weather, a little bit of warmth. It's been good.
yeah, it has. It has. It's been fun traveling still the province and seeing the crops all coming up. I love that smell driving by,
Mm.
and yeah,
Yeah,
really good.
yeah.
Till of course you hit the pastures, and then you get the other smell. But
Mm.
you know,
It is what it is.
it
And
is what it
you
is.
have been traveling a lot. You have been
Yeah.
doing a lot of meetings lately.
Yeah, last weekend, the long weekend, or was it the weekend before that? It was the weekend before that. With the long weekend, I was all over. It was great. It was really great. Got to meet a lot of people, answer a lot of questions, make a lot of friends, have a lot of conversations, and just see where the hearts of Albertans are at. And I'll tell you, they're
Mm.
curious. They're very curious. Even people who were sitting on the fence were coming up to me after and saying, "Okay, I understand. I get it. It's not so scary to
Awesome.
talk about this anymore." So it's been very positive, very
That
positive.
is fantastic. And you know what? Like, yeah, I'm seeing that at my end of the province as well. Because yeah, you're more up north, Sherwood
Yeah,
Park, Edmonton, that area. I'm down south. But yeah, last night we had the Alberta Next panel in
I
Lethbridge.
know. Yes.
Yeah, it was very well attended. Some really good conversations were had, and of course, I had to get up and say something about the really our only option that we've been left with when it comes to constitutional change is a referendum and on independence. And the response was quite positive. I had a lot of people coming up to me afterwards, saying thank you, that type of thing. And the room was just really, I was like, wow, this is bigger and has more support than what I even thought. So
Yeah.
that's fantastic. It's so good to see. It's so encouraging to see that.
It really is. And I encourage anybody who can get a hold of the recording to go and hear what Angela said. Like the question was it was beautifully articulated. It laid it all out amazingly. Um, and this is how we need to keep this conversation going, is articulate and calm and together. And even if we can disagree, and that's fine, that you don't want to agree on everything, but we need to articulate our arguments. And Angela, I just think you did such a great job of that
Thank
last night.
you.
And yeah, I want to commend you on that. And the cheers that you received after, obviously I'm not the only one who thinks that. So
You-
I think you really you set a great standard for people, and I hope that that continues on, especially with the events of this week, um,
Mhm.
that have shown us we need to continue on. Um,
Yes. And you know
with
what? Let's touch on that really quick. I mean, it is September 12th.
Yeah,
And yeah, like our hearts were broken this week when we saw the murder of Charlie Kirk.
yeah,
Um mo- the thing that really kind of hit me is that he was one who encouraged conversation, just as we are, just as so many other people around the world are saying, look, we need to be able to have these conversations.
yeah,
And to lose somebody like that who has been so key in pushing that part of the process
yeah,
has to be a conversation, and it has to be calm, and it has to be respectful. And was he perfect at that? No. Are any of us perfect at it? No. But just striving for that. And yeah, so uh, yeah, we need to keep doing that, right? And I was really grateful to see last night that it was, for the most part, a very respectful conversation at the Alberta Next panel. I was a little worried. And it
yeah,
was actually very, very good. And lots of people made comments like, thank you to the premier, thank you to the panel for coming and doing this, because they learned a lot and it was a good conversation. And talking about good conversations, you and
hmm,
I recently saw a video with somebody that we were like, we need to talk to this young man. He is amazing.
yes.
And we love what he's doing. So, Kathy, why don't you bring on Hirad, and we are going to introduce him to our audience. And have a conversation. There he is. Hi, Hirad.
Hello. How are you
Thank
guys
you.
doing?
We're great. Thanks so much for taking time out of your day to
Yeah,
chat
of
with
course.
us for a little bit about Alberta independence, obviously, because that's all Angela and I seem to know how to talk about on any given day. Uh,
Mhm.
and now it's so much fun. I'll set the stage this way. Every time Angela and I are out and about chatting with either smaller groups or larger groups or medium-sized groups or whatever, even one-on-one with people, we're always asked, where are the youth? Where are the kids? How come it's only us older folks that are always in these rooms? And our response is always, the generations have different ways of communicating. Our generation, we like to get together for coffee, and we like to get together in groups, like in people. And but the next generations, you guys, you've got your own way of doing it. And
Mhm.
it's pretty fun. So you're all there, and then Angela happened upon you, and we were like, okay, you need to help us old ladies here understand, where is the youth? What's going on? What are you hearing? Who are you? How did you get into this whole thing? So I'm going to be quiet for a couple of minutes and let you take it from there. Tell us who you are and how you got into this space.
Yeah, so my name is Hirad. I was originally born in Iran, actually. I came to Canada with my parents when I was 9, and they're both engineers in the oil and gas industry. So I've always like been connected and like been invested like sort of like in the ups and downs of that particular segment of like Alberta's economy. And yeah, truth be told, I wasn't um, independence minded, so to speak, until before the election in April. My dad, he was actually I guess I call him like a conditional, like 51st stater. Yeah, he
Okay.
was like, worst case scenario, Carney gets in, um, and Alberta joins the states or whatever. And at the time, before the election, I was like, I thought that's like blasphemy, I was really on the Pierre Poilievre train. I just couldn't see an outcome where, people would be like apathetic towards the last 10 years. But, I guess the Eastern voting blocks, seem to be that way this time around. And so, yeah, that really like just shattered my perception of like a viable future for Canada. And so, and then yeah, that's also around the time when I discovered that like there is like a sort of organized body, like namely the Alberta Prosperity Project that's spearheading this. And so, and like once you come across that, once you realize that like this isn't as much of a fringe movement as you thought it once was, like you become more open to expressing your views on it, and you're much and you wouldn't like you're not really ashamed of like being open about it and like expressing it to the people you know. And so yeah, and that's also when I was exposed to like the like historic precedent of like um I guess separatist sentiment in Alberta, so to speak, and like the like all the grievances, you know, even like throughout the past 120 years.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I came into contact yeah, with Michael Wagner. Yeah, through the I think I met him at the Fort Saskatchewan APP town hall. That was in July, I believe. And so yeah, from there on, I sort of explored more of like the like ramifications for independence that weren't necessarily economic, right? Because I feel like people that are reeled into this, initially that's usually what uh, like the reasonings are. But then, you sort of look at all of this like disproportionate voting power that exists in the East, primarily in the maritime provinces, and how it's essentially tyranny of the majority, where policies that govern us are essentially dictated by voters out east whose lives are completely different. their industries are completely different, and who really like have no regard for Westerners or what keeps us afloat. And so yeah, and so yeah, and because of that, and to your point about um, like I guess in-person town halls, especially just being packed with 55-plus-year-olds, that's also something that I um, yeah came to notice first. I think the first event I went to was the one at the legislature in Edmonton. That was on May 3rd, I think. Yeah, and that sort of like first like exposed me to like the demographic that attends these sort of in-person events. But at the same time, I feel like you know having um, like being active on social media, making posts and stuff. I've noticed that a lot of like my viewer base is much younger usually,
Mm.
right? From the
Right.
analytics that I see. And so that sort of, to me at least, is sort of evidence of like the like younger generations. They may be fully on board with this. They might not be super expressive about it. They might not, talk about it openly and whatever, but like if we keep sort of like increasing these sort of like virtual online like outlets and how we communicate and like just keeping things concise and short in terms of like how like we do like myth busting or like ramifications for independence, it would just reach out to like so many other young people. And I think part of um, the apathy, well, I would say somewhat apathy that you see from young people towards this movement is because like I know like a lot of young men, especially, they were really like big on the peer train, right?
Yeah.
They were like me, they were also very hopeful that something positive would come out of the election, and so yeah, they might not. So I guess they're sort of distraught, like of like
Hmm.
anything occurring, right, in regards to freer Canada as a whole. But I've been like sort of working towards, well, not initially, but sort of working towards, I guess, presenting, Alberta independence as like a kind of remedy, right, to those
Right.
ills, to
Mm.
being like yeah, to being like in this sort of situation where, you know, the, you know, the majority of like boomers essentially out in the eastern voting blocks are, deciding on, governments that really are having like, control over our lives, people that have, you know, appreciated assets and are just, coasting off like on their CPP and, their paid off houses and whatnot are basically just deciding our fate.
Yeah.
And that really needs to change. And, and another thing that I've been wanting to make a point of, but I haven't, is that, if you were to make all these constitutional amendments like Smith keeps talking about that are virtually impossible, by the way, like in the
Right.
current framework, is it like a referendum on independence with like a plural, like yes, majority vote is like the closest thing to a silver bullet that Albertans have in terms of like even if we were to stay in Canada to actually negotiate from a position of strength, so to speak, right?
Absolutely.
And so that's just, I feel like a lot of people need to push that more, right? I mean, I'm all for like full independence, full autonomy, like nationhood and whatnot, but a lot of people are on the fence because of that, because there are a lot of contingencies that come with that, right?
Right.
And like like it's when people, I've talked to a lot of people, in college even, about like, okay, well, what about like the short-term investment market? What about like, military, or what about NATO, or, all these things? What about, border patrol? And so, and, we should engage with those, questions in good faith, because like they are like real questions that like deserve to be answered, right? To It just makes a better point for independence once you have all of those things covered. I know the Alberta Prosperity Project on their site has like a massive FAQ on that
Mm-hmm.
issue
Yes.
specifically.
Very helpful.
Yeah, and so yeah, but yeah, just that kind of pointing towards that direction, that okay, like even if you're just very ingrained in your identity as a Canadian, and you don't want Alberta to secede, right? Well, once negotiations ensue from like a majority yes vote referendum, like secession, it's may or may not happen, right? Like that's like the fine print written in the 1998 Supreme Court case,
Mm-hmm.
or like the review, so to speak. And so yeah, it's like either way, whichever way this goes, it's like to we have to get that referendum and push it past the 50% line for there to be like any real tangible change.
Yeah, absolutely. So the main way that you're getting your messaging across is through social media, is that right?
Yes.
What platforms are you using? Like where could people find you?
Yeah, I'm primarily on Instagram and TikTok. Um, I and also YouTube. I do more of my medium uh, sort of form content on YouTube, medium
Okay.
length content. So yeah, that's just the Alberta project, um, and it has like a sort of like the Alberta crest, but like in gold for like,
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
yes, the like profile picture of my channel. I'm also on Instagram, by the same handle, and a new venture that I've started, I think around last month, is a it's a page called Independence Peter, where I've sort of hopped on this train of like there's these videos that have been like going trendy, where there's like characters from Family Guy, Peter Griffin, Stewie, and
Mhm.
whatever, and they're speaking to each other on like various topics, and a lot of them are actually educational. I've seen like a lot of other pages that use this format to get their like points across, and so I was like, well, there should definitely be like a page in regards to independence, right? To use this format to spread the message, and it's worked really well, specifically in terms of like getting the message across to younger people. Like I know, I think the demographics like for the viewership on on that Instagram page right now is, I think, 40% are in the 18 to 25-year age bracket.
Nice.
So
Nice.
yeah, that's really good. So yeah, that kind of content is just really pushed onto younger people. So yeah, that page is on Instagram and TikTok, and yeah, it's been doing pretty well. And yeah, I sort of plan to like a lot of the myth busting that I do,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of the like points that I make for independence, I plan to express it through that channel, or that Instagram and TikTok page specifically, so that yeah, it gets the broadest, it it's the furthest reaching sort of, and then also through more medium long form content, like the interviews that I do, or the like one-off videos that I make on YouTube.
That is really
That is.
that is really exciting because I'm trying to think of like any other independence groups that are using TikTok or Instagram. Kathy, I don't know. Do you? I mean, I know Facebook, obviously, but that's for old people generally.
Mm-hmm.
And YouTube.
Yeah.
Um,
But yeah, I don't think there's really too much going on Instagram and TikTok. So that's excellent that you've tapped into that. Hirad, when you are at school or just sort of out and about with your friends or whatever, is there conversation among you guys about independence, or is it just mostly kept to online conversation?
It's mostly kept to online. Like it isn't like issue on people's minds, but not so much where they talk openly about it. Like I said, I have talked, in Red Deer Polytechnic about it, to like a couple of students, and some were on the fence, some were, like undecided. But I feel like,
Yeah.
um, yeah, I feel like academia generally, because it's like especially in post-secondary, because it's so left-leaning,
Mm-hmm.
people aren't prone to like express their views on it very much.
Yeah.
But I am like wanting to sort of like I mean I've talked to Lisa. She's the communications director from APP, and
Mm-hmm.
she mentioned that like like an idea she had where you have like this sort of panel set up, sort of like what Charlie Kirk did, but not as decisive, so to speak, where you're, like just super like rapid fire, um, like deconstructing the other person's argument, just like the more of like a having like some panelists, on campuses to that are making that are responding like in a constructive manner to whatever it is that students bring up, right? And so that's something I want to explore here. But outside of that, I don't. Yeah, I'm honest. You know, myself, I'm also not too interested about like sort of bringing up that topic out of the blue and talking
Yeah,
to people about it. Unless it's relevant to the discussion that's being had.
Right.
So yeah.
that makes sense. And I've also had younger people say to me, well, we were just taught in school not to talk about this. You don't
Mm.
talk about it. You only just learn whatever the teachers are teaching you. There's not really any discussion. Has that been your experience through the education system?
Well, I mean, I don't. I am in. I'm in the first year engineering program here, and then I'm transferred to U of A. So it's not like the only class where we might have, discussions that would like veer into like politics and stuff would be
Yeah.
like the one English class that I have. But outside of that, for me, it's like very much technical. Now, I don't know,
Mm.
maybe like in, you know, people in like economics or political science, whether like this is a topic of discussion or, but I would say like university is and like post-secondary in general is just like it's a better environment for like sharing views where like, this like discussion is um, something that happens more often than like in high school or whatnot. But then again, it's like a matter of like being careful to not, pluck the feather of like your very progressive, like say English teacher, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who's like, because those rubrics can be sometimes very subjective, like you could risk your marks if you're not on good terms with that teacher.
Right.
So yeah, but I would say in my experience, I wouldn't like I haven't felt that like anyone's stifled it or anything, I would say.
Okay. It
That's
sounds
good to
like
hear.
it does. And it sounds like we maybe need to bring back debate teams,
Mm,
right? Like the old style debate teams where it didn't matter really what you were taking in school, you would still have the opportunity to join
mm,
and learn how to argue both sides. And that was one of the things I think that's lacking now in teaching us how to have these conversations. Because on those, when they used to have debate teams, you had to actually debate both sides of an argument. You didn't get to just pick your favorite side.
mm,
You had
mm.
to figure out both to help that critical thinking.
Yeah.
And I think that needs to maybe come back.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I don't know. I think in Lillian Osborne, where I went to high school in Edmonton, I'm not sure if there was a debate club or there may have been, but it wasn't very like it wasn't very vocal. Like even if
Mm,
there was one, I didn't hear much about it. But yeah, like to your point about like having to argue both sides, I think it's really important to like tap into, you know, the other side, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because like you have to be able to see like how they frame arguments and like what their perspectives are, and it also just helps in outreach.
Yeah.
Like it really does to basically be able to, you know, speak in their language, sort of. And
right.
I think, yeah, I've
Mm,
when the Angus Reid poll came out in May about like the separatist sentiment in Alberta, there was one section that like would dissect it by party, and it was like 67% of people that voted UCP were in favor, and like 98% of people voted NDP or like against, right? But apparently there's like 2% people who voted NDP that like are behind this, or like maybe either on the fence, even if they're not very much decided on it. And so like I'm really like curious like where I can find such a person, and like I really want to like have them on my channel, like a sort of like a discussion format, right, where we talk about this and to just hear their points, and also like people that are just against the notion, like full stop. I
mhm.
think, yeah, we need to reach out to those people more as well, right? And because it also, not only does it like just help to like sort of get the message to like a broader audience, but it also, like, the more you talk to people that are against the notion, is like you sort of like sharpen up like on your own rhetoric, and
Yes.
like
Yes.
on the points that you are able to present in like in favor of independence. So yeah, I think that's very important.
It is. And one of the things that Angela and I found by having conversations with smaller groups rather than on a stage talking to a bunch of people is we get to really find out what are your concerns? What are your fears with this? What are not just what are your thoughts, but what prevents a person from being able to say yes, this is the way we need to go, because there's always something, right? And it's usually fear that is keeping people. And so we know what those fears are within our generation. Hirad, what are the fears within your generation of an independent Alberta?
Yeah, I guess it would like basically, yeah, just tie back into sort of like, I guess, defense would be like a big part of it, like because like all this geopolitical conflict going on right now, a lot of
Mm-hmm.
Mm,
people think that like, oh, well, you're not protected by the Canadian military anymore, as if there is like a tangible Canadian military like in the first
right.
place, right? But like, yeah, and like whether Alberta will be a part of NATO, and then outside of that, I would say it's also like mostly economic, right? As most things are.
Yeah.
Like
Mm,
the primary concerns of my generation. Like, okay, like will there still be, like social safety nets, right? Like will we still have this sort of healthcare system where the recipients aren't paying out of pocket to get care? Like, will, like, if there was like a boom in revenue and whatnot, um, will, so like, will we like sort of, I guess, like increase royalties on, like, given that there is like a much more friendly like investment and like regulatory climate, like will we tap into that like in the form of like royalties and like maybe higher taxes, like the Peter Lougheed years, right? Um, and so that can then go back and like be spent on infrastructure or social programs and whatnot. And so I think, yeah, a lot of it has to do with safety nets, right? And there's also like a fear of like, because the conservative voting like block is so big in Alberta, that those things like would be put to the wayside completely.
Mm.
that it would just be like sort of like unfettered, like a market climate where taxes are low for everyone, and it's just basically like free enterprise controls everything. Which, as we see in the U.S., that's not like always the best solution, so to speak, right? There are definitely ways of sort of balancing things out so that you know like market freedom exists for everyone, but also because of the tremendous like wealth that we have, on this piece of like real estate, that like there are safety nets for people that people aren't paying out of pocket, for necessities like healthcare and stuff like that. So I think that's very big.
That's
Very
fascinating.
interesting. Yeah.
That's great because it's not a lot different. Those fears are actually not a lot different from
Mm.
other generations, from my generation and from my parents' generation. But they, is it fair to say the conception of them, like how how they're seen, how they're viewed, how they're experienced, the
Hmm.
tangibility of it is different,
Yeah,
right? Because
yeah,
I mean, we're so used to going to the hospital. Like we just had a family emergency, and we went to the hospital with that family emergency, and never once did it even occur to us that we were going to have to come up with tens of thousands of dollars to
hmm
cover any of the care that our loved one received, right? Like it just wasn't
hmm
even a thing. So I really appreciate that safety net being there. That's for sure. On the other side of that, I also appreciate the wasteful spending that
yeah,
takes place in a socialized um,
yeah,
construct that we live in right now, right? And so, what your generation brings to the table, I think, is probably that blessed assurance of new ideas of how to do things,
hmm
right? Like every generation has these new ideas that we need to not stifle and not quieten down. And I hear people in my generation say, oh well, it's just these young guys, they don't want to work, they want everything handed to them. And I haven't actually experienced that. When
yeah,
I do have the opportunity to talk to the younger generation, they just want to know that the older generation isn't going to rob them of all of the opportunities that they know are
hmm
out there. Is that fair?
yeah, absolutely. That's the biggest thing, right? I mean, just like, I think like relatively speaking, like all generations, like when they were young, like everyone in their younger years, like people work hard generally, so to speak,
Mhm.
right? But for younger people, it's just not paying off as much. Like if you look at, housing prices, or just like the sort of like just the outlook of like our future in like comparison to prior generations who just had like way more buying power and like way more like long-term investments that they could make at like a very early age.
Yeah.
That's something that's like the biggest thing I think is that like, yeah, we like sort of we want assurances, and that like what we work for like is like it's not sort of like a pipe dream, that it's like, well, like the things that we're working towards are actually achievable, right? That
Yeah.
like you don't have to be like 40 or whatever just to be able to afford like a down payment and things like that. And so I think, yeah, that also goes back, to like, again, like market conditions like have to be, much far better than they are now, right? There should be like investment, like incentive to invest here. And whether it's companies in Alberta or abroad, right? Literally just anyone, like capital has to fly in from somewhere always. And yeah, like just like exactly what you said about the wasteful spending, I think a lot of people that are more progressively leaning would like agree that like the tax dollars that we spend have to be stretched much further than they
Mhm.
are right now. And so, and like a big part of that is like how little we get in federal transfers, like from the 30 billion that we send over every year. Like that is such like a massive point in favor of independence. It's like where, okay, even like, for the first year, tax rates don't change. Like you're still paying the same thing. Like you could get so much in return,
Mhm.
for all the tax dollars that you're paying to stay here and to, fund, programs in like healthcare, that are here. And also, like, I think what's happened with the like charter healthcare surgical facilities is pretty good where, well, yeah, like you do have, private, um like you have private companies that are giving the healthcare, but they're contracted by tax dollars, and in a
Right.
lot of ways that can be so much more efficient than just one like behemoth, uh like governing, well, not governing body, but like just one single organization that's attached to the government, like the AHS. And so I think that sort of like hybrid approach, so to speak, um, can just, yeah, really like remedy so many like people's ills. And like I think there's just more education needs to be involved in like terms of like making points that, like, okay, like there is no such thing as like being on the spectrum, like either left wing or right wing, right? Like
Hmm.
there are solutions to like so many of these problems that are like usually just like a hybrid, sort of like, so to speak, of the two like frames of thought. And that's something that's really important to convey also, I think.
Mhm. Yeah.
I just get excited when I think about, like, so Kathy and I are within a couple of years of each other. We're both in our early 50s. And I think about like the technology span, I guess, that we've witnessed ourselves personally, that we have seen how technology has changed in the last 50 years. And I just see now that we are on such a cusp of just something even further, something that we're going to have a hard time wrapping our minds around, but that your generation is just going to be able to use in a way that is so effective. Um, I just get really excited when I think about an independent Alberta and where we're able to kind of open things up and say, okay, what are the best solutions? And it's your generation, Hirad, that we're going to be leaning on to implement new solutions to make those tax dollars stretch farther, to be more effective, to be more efficient. Um, I just get really excited about that, and I really think that, I mean, I just love what you're doing with your cohorts, that you're reaching out to them and kind of giving them that hope. When you talked about like a lot of your generation was kind of distraught after the last election because it's just more of the same. We didn't elect, the East elected more of the same.
Yeah.
When if you're a young person trying to get off, on your own 2 feet for the first time, that would be very discouraging. I can totally understand why. And so I think I just love that you are giving hope by putting out the message that, hey, this is a possibility and there's some ways that we can do that. We're doing the same thing with our focus on women in Alberta.
Mhm.
Again, going for a different demographic. I loved what you had to say about some of the polls that have come out and the demographics, and sometimes they do break it down depending on the poll. But yeah, there's just so much there's so much work to be done, and I love the angle that you're taking. It's so important that
It's Yeah, it's great. And Harad, maybe when you're chatting with your cohorts there at in Red Deer or anywhere that you might be traveling, or you want to share something on your social media posts, Angela, I don't know if you remember this. We're going to date ourselves now, but in a good way. Back when we were in school, when you were a student, you did not have to pay taxes. You would get all of your income tax back because it was believed you were a student, you were doing something to better yourself, and therefore you should be able to have any money you earned given back to you to go back towards your education. The government has become so bloated that is no longer the case. It doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter what demographic you are in. You are going to pay taxes. Now, I mean, they've tried to fix that by monkeying with the numbers and whatnot, so that your personal exemption rate has moved around, and that was somehow supposed to make it better. But when you live in a province like Alberta, where even to work like at an entry level position starts you at a higher wage than it would in Prince Edward Island, you're still, your personal exemption is the same as what it is
Yeah.
in Prince Edward Island, right? So you're no further ahead. In fact, you're probably further behind. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I like, these are the things I dream about, right? We could go back to that, where anybody, any Albertan who is here going to school, doing something for their future in order to be able to do something for all of our future, you get to do that tax free. Whatever income you earn can go towards paying your education. And then imagine how much fewer student loans, which is a Ponzi scheme as far as I'm concerned, but you wouldn't need those student loans anymore, or not as much anymore. So that's just one example of how far this, especially the federal government, has gone to robbing your generation from when we were in school.
Yep.
And it's wrong. It's just wrong. They're stealing from you guys left, right, and center. So yeah, I'm with Angela. I'm so excited. I am so glad that you had the courage to come on the scene, to get out there, to use the tools that you know how to use in a way that you know how is going to get that message across to your generation. And we get to watch, like, and learn from you as to how to do that, because I don't know. I mean, the other day I handed my phone over to my son to fix it for me. Like, so I think this is just, I'm excited. I'm completely excited. And I'm so grateful for you, Hirad. I'm so grateful. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I'm grateful for you guys too. Like literally everyone that's like on this movement, because there's just so many different kinds of people here, right?
Yeah.
Different ages, different backgrounds. Just like I think like everyone should be like firing at all cylinders
Mm-hmm.
to reach out, to the demographics that they pertain to specifically, and that way, like I think we can bring on like the most people. Most people can come on board as a result of that, and so yeah, I'm also very excited. Yeah, just like because had it not been, for um, like the older generation who are more passionate about this topic, like Mitch Sylvester and like everyone else in the APP cohort. Yeah, like I wouldn't be here, right? I didn't think that independence would have even like been a viable option, right?
Right.
Had I not like read Michael Wagner's books, or like listened to like any of Keith, yeah, like Keith Davies's like interviews and whatnot, like yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's just it. There's some real titans that are
Sorry, Keith
paving the way.
Wilson. I said Keith Dave. That
Oh,
guy
Keith
was,
Yeah.
Wilson. Yeah.
yeah.
Keith
That,
Wilson, and another great one to listen to is Bruce Party. We may make him an
mhm,
honorary Albertan here. I'm not sure, but
mhm,
he's
yeah,
Well, and I mean, Hirad, what you described is like really people coming together
yeah.
and bridging those generations and the demographics. All that doesn't matter when you're focused and you have a common goal, and a common goal where it's really coming from the heart, and it's really just wanting the best for everyone involved. I don't know. I think this is probably a good place to wrap it up.
I think so.
Hirad has to go to class, and
Yeah,
we have to go to work. So
we do. We
it's,
do.
it's
Hirad, thank you so much. Again, I really appreciate you giving us your
yeah.
time. This was great.
Thank you guys for having me. Yeah, it's very
yeah.
insightful.
Well, and we're going to, so in the show description, because we're going to put this on YouTube and Rumble, we need to get our Rumble channel back up and going a bit more. But we're going to put in the description, we'll put a link to your YouTube channel. Also, we have a weekly newsletter that we send out. We try and do it weekly. And we would love to feature you in that newsletter. So if you have any links to like your TikTok channel or Instagram or anything, if you could send those to us, we'll make sure that we include that in the show description and also in our newsletter. And we'll just be really encouraging, our folks who have children and grandchildren and younger people in their lives to share your information and your content with them, because clearly it's probably going to reach them better than any of our content will. So.
Yeah, it's just the nature of the beast, right? Like the more shorter and concise you can make things, it's going to fare better with people's attention spans now, right? So
yeah.
But yeah, thank you guys for having me on, and yeah, I'll email you the links. I think Angela, you were and I'd like to be featured on the newsletter. Also, like reach out, like what else, like whatever else there is I need to do to like sort of like lower the burden on, because from what it sounds like you kind of like it's not so much of like a weekly thing right now, so. Yeah, anything I can do to help. Yeah, I think just more people just should be like on each other's side. Like,
I agree.
And like backing each other, like independence people, minded people. So
yes, well, we will definitely stay in touch.
Yeah, for sure.
Right on.
Same
Thank
here.
you so much, Hirad. You have a great day at school. Glad it's you and not me. And
yeah. Today's a good day, I feel like.
Good.
Yeah.
And we will do this again.
Yes, for sure.
Excellent. All right. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Take care.
Take care. Bye.
Well, I feel enlightened.
I do too. I'm like, awesome.
Right?
Yes.
That was incredible.
So is he still around? It's still recording.
It's still recording you and me. Yeah.
So okay. All right.
Yeah,
we're still on. Yes, I feel enlightened.
I'm just like, wow.
Yeah, he's awesome. That is, that is so good to see, and that's something that we have needed. And like you said, Kathy, like we get asked, like, where's the young people all the time? They're not here, and that's, you know what? That's kind of part of what we've been doing with AWIN as well. Is like, well, you have to meet people where they are, not just physically. Like, are they online? Are they at a coffee shop? Are they inviting friends over for a barbecue? But you also have to meet people where they are kind of emotionally and where they are in their understanding of of Alberta independence and the possibilities of it. So that was, and I think I was a bit surprised to learn that the fears and concerns are not a lot different. They're not
a lot different. I don't know what I expected his answer to be, but that wasn't it.
Well, and like you said, with his generation, maybe it's more tangible. I remember, oh my goodness, I remember when I was first married and we had our first baby and we were students and living in subsidized housing type of thing in Calgary. And if times were tough, we would just go find another job.
Yeah.
Like we would go find a part-time job. I remember we had this part-time job of like filling sandbags. This guy had all these contracts with all these gas stations. You know how people that you buy sandbag in the winter when you need the extra weight. People who don't live in this climate would understand that. But you have to buy sandbags. My husband, when he moved from Chicago, I'm like, got to get sandbags in the back of the truck, and he was like, "What?"
Right. You put them over the wheel wells, duh.
Right. Yeah, right. So, but we were filling sandbags. And so after school, we'd go and head out to this guy's Quonset then, like this giant pile of sand. And we had a scale and we would like fill these sandbags. We could find work so easily. And, we only did that for a few months. We need a few extra bucks. We'll go do that. Or, I need a few extra bucks for, whatever. I'll go get a paper route. I used to have a paper route that paid $400 a month. You know what? That paid our rent.
Yeah.
For $400 a month. We were in subsidized housing, but still. but I think about our young people now, and I mean, they can't get a job at Tim Hortons.
Nope.
And so you're right. The fears are the same, but the application or the effect is different. Is very different.
Yeah. Yeah. That was I'll be kind of stewing over this all day today. That I was just taking notes. I didn't mean to seem rude by turning away, but I was writing down what he was saying because there was some points I didn't want to miss and forget.
Yeah. No, I knew what you were doing, so that's cool.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Well, I don't know. Maybe you and I need to learn how to use some of these tools.
I don't want to go on TikTok. I don't.
I don't either.
And Instagram, I got rid of that a year ago. I was like, what?
Oh man, I know. Well, you know what? Maybe we don't. Maybe just talking this through, we stick to the ones that speak to our generation. He speaks to his, and we just all come together and vote yes on that referendum. Maybe that needs to be just the plan rather than us trying to, cross pollinate and thread.
Well, but I am curious about Independent Peter. I want to see that.
I do want to see that too.
Oh, okay. I might have to get TikTok for that one.
Was that on TikTok? I thought he said Instagram.
He said Instagram. Did he say TikTok too? Anyways, well, Instagram for sure. I could fire up Instagram again and go find Independent Peter.
I guess. Crazy. Awesome. Angela, as always, I love these chats. I do too. Hopefully our lives will slow down a little bit more so we can do them more often. This summer just sort of went sideways for both of us in different ways, but
it did. Yeah. I mean, just doing different things. And I mean, I'm still in my busy season. I've got one more month of grinding it out before I breathe again, but
that's okay.
It's all good. It's good. I mean, yeah.
We'll get her done.
Cool. Well, hey.
Until next time. Awesome.
Stay independent.
Yeah, that's right. Stay independent is right. Cool. Well, have an awesome day, my friend.
Thank you so much. You too.
Take care.
All right. Bye-bye.